Hey everybody, John Wagnon here with DevCentral, and we are bringing you another Lightboard lesson video. And today we're going to talk about some research that our F5 Labs team did, and it centers around this idea of cellular IoT gateways. And the essence of this is this. I'll draw like a little picture of what's going on here. You have various vehicles, or maybe trucks or boats or any number of things that require constant connectivity to the internet. So in this specific example, let me draw a little car here. I'll try to draw a good car. I am not an artist, by the way, so bear with me on my car drawing, although that wasn't too bad really. All right, so let's say you have a car, and in this case, it's not just a car. This one is a police car, so you're going to have the lights up here and they're going and all that stuff. But in this police car, for example, you need to have constant connectivity to the internet because, you know, nowadays you may have a police officer that has maybe a body camera that records directly to some, cloud-based, storage device or whatever, but it needs some sort of connectivity there. Or they sit down and they type out a police report on the spot and then send it. Or any number of things that a police vehicle may need constant connectivity for. Or let's say you have a delivery truck driver that has like a tablet device. So when they bring you a package, then you sign for it, and then they update it, and boom, it's on. The website's updated, everything's good to go. So they need some kind of connectivity from the delivery truck. Or maybe you have a boat, like a Coast Guard vessel or whatever. Or any number of kind of shipping vessel, maybe not even Coast Guard, but shipping vessel that needs connectivity across the ocean, or whatever it is. You've got all these different vehicles or means of transportation that need constant connectivity. All right, well, our F5 Labs team has done some research surrounding these types of vehicles and their constant connectivity, and we'll go back and just use the example of a police car, but you can understand that this is not true just for a police car, but for many types of vehicles. All right, so police car's doing its thing. It's policeman's doing his rounds and patrolling and all that kind of stuff. But along the way, I'm going to draw maybe like a cell tower up here, and that's like a cellular tower. But then out here in outer space, you've got a GPS satellite. That provides connectivity here to this thing, and then there's connection here with a cell tower. So as the car is driving around, it needs connectivity maybe for GPS location or whatever with a satellite. Maybe it needs cell tower connectivity to be able to make calls or do its various things that I talked about before. But there has to be something on this vehicle that is the gateway, as it were, to provide the connections to allow this police officer to do his thing. All right, so I'm going to draw a little device. This is a very rough device right here. And this thing I'm going to call a cell gateway on this vehicle. All righty, and this thing is going to have connection to a GPS satellite. They're going to have 4G LTE cell connectivity. It's going to have Ethernet plug-in capability in the back of it. So if you've got like a rack mount or a mounted laptop, let's say inside of a police car, you can just put you can plug the Ethernet cable straight into this thing, that type of thing. So it's so this is the gateway, as it were, to provide connection out to to the internet. All right. One of the issues that our team found is that the providers or the manufacturers of these what we'll call cell gateways, they don't inherently require strong authentication to log into these things. And a lot of these things are publicly facing to the internet. So let's say you have another, a guy over here sitting in his basement, and he's on his laptop, doing his thing right here, and he wants to connect to this thing. Well, if it's publicly facing, then he can connect into this cell gateway right here via the public IP space. And if there's not good authentication into this thing, then he can log in as admin, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever it is, and then this guy takes over control of this gateway. And that is precisely what has gone on here in the research that our F5 Labs team has done. They did a scan of these various cell gateways that are publicly accessible out there on the internet today, and they found that, I'm going to write a couple numbers up here, over 100,000 of these things, I'm going to put a plus, are out there that are publicly facing and that are made by a manufacturer who does not require either any authentication at all to get into these things, or their authentication credentials are horribly weak. Literally one of them, the admin username is admin, and the password was literally 12345. All right, so you can get right into these things. And of course, default credentials are published on these manufacturers' websites. So it's not that hard to get into them. Of those 100,000 plus that are out there, 86% were located in the United States. So as our team did this research and they said, okay, 100,000 plus of these things are out there, 86% in the United States, let's start to overlay some of the most populated cities in America to see where these things are being used and like what kind of vehicles these are being used in, or what, where how these are being used, kind of thing. So they did that, and they found that there were actual police cars that are outfitted with these things. The company, by the way, one of the primary manufacturers of these is called Sierra Wireless, and the Sierra Wireless uses fleets of cars use the Sierra Wireless devices pretty extensively across the United States and frankly across the world. Anyway, so they did this research, and they were able to not only log into these what we'll call the cell gateway here on the vehicle themselves, but then because GPS coordinates are displayed there and many other things are displayed there, they were actually able to track the physical location in real time of these different vehicles. And so we'll kind of zoom out here, and I'll show you an actual screenshot of the GPS location of these vehicles. So if you look in the screen here, you can start to see the lines moving around, and these are actual police cars that are traveling around the road. And while this shows the history of where they have been, you could imagine you could use kind of whatever you want to track the real-time location, and just imagine if you could track the entire fleet of these vehicles all at once. So that's a pretty powerful thing to be able to do. So let's say that you have a set of attackers that have logged into every single cell gateway in your entire fleet. Let's say you're a police department. Then they could track every single one of your vehicles. Beyond that, these things can be used for botnet attacks. And in fact, Sierra Wireless has already said that the Mirai botnet that's used to launch multiple DDoS attacks, their cell gateway devices have been used by the Mirai botnet. So there are many things that could go wrong here if this is allowed to happen. The primary thing that we need to do in this specific case is we need to lock down these cell gateways. So the primary thing is change the default username and password. There's other things like don't use Telnet, you can use SSH instead. You can use ACLs to control who has access into these gateways. We can link to the actual report that our labs team did. But the bottom line is, if you are a user of one of these cell gateways, then you need to be aware that unless you change the default credentials on these things, you are inherently exposing yourself to some significant problems out there. So I mean, you could be used in the case of a DDoS attack. Your entire fleet could be tracked by someone else at all times. Someone could log in and change all the credentials here and just completely take these all offline all at one time. The possibilities are pretty devastating when you think about them all. So part of what we wanted to do today is get the word out there that this whole problem exists and share the information. So if this applies to you at all, hopefully you'll be able to get in there, make some changes to your default username and password, and not expose yourself to some significant problems. So hey, thanks for hanging in there and watching this Lightboard lesson video with us today. If you like this, you can click right up here on our DC ball and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys out there in the community.